Mike Detillier, WWL 870, the big 870 out of New Orleans. Last night he was at the Silver Slipper Casino there in Bay St. Louis. He had Coach O on. We're going to talk about that as we lead into this big game. I don't think this NCAA conversation is going to dominate this program. Tua Tagovailoa, Alabama, LSU, and all the things above. Mike, I hope you're having a great afternoon. Welcome into the game in T-Town.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it, buddy.
Mike, your reaction to the NCAA opening up or trying to you vote unanimously to let the athletes profit for their name, images, and likeness.
You backed in the corner, you got to jump, right?
Sure you do. Yeah, great point.
Yeah, they ain't winning this in court. Come on. And so they're trying to be preemptive of what's going to happen. And I don't know what's going to happen down in the future, but man, don't give me this stuff because they got it down here too. People are, that number on that jersey's been there forever. That owned by the school. My only thing about it is, how many 7 jerseys was shown out there to the general public before Tyrann Mathieu wore it?
Sure.
At LSU. Come on. You're living in another world here. But they got a lot of butt smoochers in the world, Ryan. Yeah, man, listen, what the boss says, he is the king. Well, the NCAA has been the boss here. But that word's not exactly right. They're going to get something out of this, and they should get something out of it. If your likeness and jerseys and whatever, that sort of thing, you should get a little piece of the pie. Listen, I work with a guy, his 3 jersey with the Saints. It's owned by the Saints. Okay, I get it. And the Saints get more money when they sell a Bobby Hebert jersey than Bobby does.
Wow.
That portion of the money is more. So, man, don't give me this stuff about it's owned by the school. Okay, somebody who wore that jersey, is spinning that off. And like what LSU has done with if it's been Fournette, if it's been Tyrann, if it was Patrick Peterson before. Now the throwback, I told Bert Jones this a few weeks back. Bert, they selling more of your jerseys now than they did when you played. He said, well, I ain't seeing no money out of it. I said, I get it. But, and Bert, he was 40. He said, listen, man, these college athletes, they should get at least something out of this. He said, the way I look at it, I should be getting something out of it. If they selling my stuff and kind of, making money off of me, my likeness, whatever. So, Ryan, it's going to open the Pandora box, and I'm not sure where it's going to take it, but, this isn't going to be a major deal in college football. There's been much bigger issues done than this now, and if they don't address this transfer situation and how you can kind of hopscotch amongst teams, that's a much bigger issue, in my opinion, in college football than what this ruling in California is going to make out to me. Only a few people are going to make money off of likenesses. Come on. It's not like everybody. And how much money you really think these guys are going to make off of that? I don't think they're going to make a fortune off of this at any stretch. So I think a lot of people are making a lot of it out of nothing onto the deal. I do think athletes should get paid for their likenesses. Now, I'm not all for paying the athlete, because of what they get back. I'm not all for it. If you want to increase the stipend, I get it. But I do think that if you're part of something and your likeness is on a Madden game or something else, you should get something out of that. I don't see how this wasn't brought to court before. That's a very winnable case, so to speak. And O'Bannon, I do give O'Bannon credit. He was the one who kind of pressed the issue on it, and he got him to look at it, in certain situations, certainly with the basketball thing. So I think it's a minor issue at all. It's not going to affect college football as radically as some people might think it is, and affect recruiting, and everybody's going to go play in California. The NCAA is not going to let that occur. That's going to be across America. That's how it's going to be. This is not going to do that just in the state of California. Come on.
Mike, let's go to Alabama and LSU. That's what people really want to talk about here. And I know the NCAA, it's breaking news. We'll cover it just a little bit. But you had Coach O on last night. This is going to be an epic game. It's going to be a lot of fun. It should be 1-2. We'll find out the official rankings 1 week from today. But LSU jumping Alabama and the AP poll, I expect that their resume will be enough to convince the committee that they'll be the number one team in college football coming to Tuscaloosa. When you look at this game, what is it about this game and the matchup that you're looking at from your perspective, and you say the game will be decided where?
Well, first things first, I really don't give a damn who's 1 or 2 before the game.
Sure. Right.
You know what I care about? And Oach kind of worked around it a little bit last night. He was like, man, all I'm worried about is who's number 1 at the end of the year, and he made the comment, hey, killer beans, doesn't mean anything. And he said, I told that to our team. It doesn't matter, where we ranked. We got to perform because you know what? You can wear that on your moniker for a week and then you get your butt kicked and it's all over. And it's great, for fans sort of kind of brag a little bit here and there. But I think it's a trench game. I really do. And it's part of an article I'm doing this week. And he took the job on a Saturday. He got offered the job, and I didn't get to talk to him much that Saturday. But the Sunday we had a long conversation. He brought up to me about, hey, listen, we got to get a signature quarterback here at LSU. We got to do it. And this is pre-Tua, pre-Joe Burrow. But he said, my thing is, if we can get the first one, then the others will kind of fall into place. But he said, where Alabama has done great work, and he said, I think Nick is underrated at, is his talent evaluation. And he said, it's where we, LSU has taken a tumble. And the head coach, like he said, he's got the final say. You can be the recruiting coordinator, but that don't mean a lot. You mean, basically it's a title. You get a little bit more money, but head coach got that final say. And he said, look what Nick has done in the trenches to recruit players. Now, I went back and sort of looked at it, and like I said, it's part of an article I'm doing over the weekend, but LSU, since 2012, have had 3 either first or second round pick defensive linemen. You think about LSU, don't you think about defense, right?
Sure you do.
Alabama's had 6. That's double. Ain't close. That's double. Offensive lineman, last time LSU had an offensive lineman taken in round 1?
Wow.
1998, Alan Faneca. Since 2012, they've had 1 offensive lineman taken in the top 2 rounds of the draft. How many Alabama's had? 6. Right. Listen, we ain't splitting the atom here. We ain't trying to send a mission to Mars. That tells you right there where Nick has been able to do it. He has been able to spot talent, recruit talent, develop talent, trench people. The hardest spots to get out on the football field. Offensive, defensive linemen. And look how he tsunamied LSU in that category. And then don't give me this stuff about, well, if we'd have picked up a fumble, we wouldn't have jumped off sides. You lost. You got beat. Don't give me a lot of what-ifs. There's a lot of what-ifs in life. Yet if I'd have had one more number right on the Powerball, I might be a winner today.
Sure.
And you'd be talking to somebody else.
Right.
So it's all relevant. But I do think what O brought up to me, I think is correct. That's where Alabama has smoked LSU in their talent evaluation of offensive, defensive linemen. It had been a strength, especially on defense. It had been a strength for less, and it got away from it. And Alabama took hold of that. And look, we talking about this as LSU, Alabama. Just think about if those numbers are placed on an Ole Miss, a Mississippi State. Mississippi State last year, with 2 defensive linemen going in round 1. I mean, that's unbelievable for them. But I do think that has been a huge part of that success. Nick's ability to evaluate talent and then develop it very quickly. He's done that as well as anyone. this game has ever seen on the sidelines. In a commuter world of college football, when you can declare early for the NFL draft, scholarship limitations, you hire assistant coaches today, most of them are looking to get the next job. That's how a lot of them are. They ain't looking at staying. They looking at going. I don't blame them. What's happening today? So to answer your question, it's going to be one in the trenches. Because Tua and Joe, they're going to put up their numbers. They're going to be who they are. And you got great receivers on both sides. I think Alabama has the edge at receiver because of the speed element. I think that they have that element there. Well, LSU's got really good receivers. Alabama got some unbelievable wideouts. Who wins in the trenches? Because, the secondary people are, basically about the same with LSU and Alabama. But I think it's going to be one inside. It's going to be just what he told me one day after he took the job at LSU and he got the full-time position. That still applies today. That's why they were getting beat. That's why they were getting beat. And if they get beat, in the following weekend, it's going to be because of what happens offensive, defensive lines. And Alabama's offensive line is really good. LSU's been a bit disappointing on the defensive side. They've given up way too many big plays. I look at it against Auburn. They shut down Auburn's rushing attack for the most part, but then DJ, he hits 2 long runs out of it. They had Nix bottled up all day long. He was slinging the ball all over the place, but he made a couple big plays in the game. But that's been all season long, that they've given up the big plays in the passing game. They ain't faced no cat like Tua. That's all I can tell you. Ankle not 100%. Sure, that's not going to be that way. But, man, they've been leaking the secondary and giving up a lot of big plays. I'm honest with LSU fans. I tell them, unless that changes, and you better bet the over. I don't know what it's going to be, but I bet it's going to be a high number, with these two teams. So, and Alabama's given up big plays in the secondary.
Sure.
So the lack of a pass rush, I think, is evident. You see it sporadically, but I think that, I recall last year leading up to the Alabama game and talking to Orgeron about Quentin Williams. And I said, well, you're going to block him. Nobody has all year. He gave me a real long pause, and he said, yeah, I'm going to clean it up a little bit. He's like, you ever got thrown a wet bar of soap in the shower before? Yeah, I have. He said, well, that's blocking Quentin Williams. You never get a good grip on him. And he said, we're going to try to double team him. And he said, you know what? We may even triple team him. But we can't let him control the middle. What did he do? He controlled everything inside. He blew up that middle on LSU on virtually every snap. He was a dominating guy that day. And the best player on the field when LSU played Alabama a year ago. So you don't have that type of guy, on either side of the football, to be honest, that can control things. So, again, I do think it's a trench game. It's going to be one offensive, defensive line. Who's the winner there? That's going to be the telltale sign. The kick. Everybody always points toward the kicking game, and I don't know enough about Cade York and how you can handle pressure. He's never been put in that spot as a college kicker. In the last couple of weeks, you've seen him in bigger games. He had to change his diaper. He wet the pants in a couple of spots. And so, you understand he's very talented. He's just a freshman, and he's going to go through that. But he has shown a little bit of big game jitters that we hadn't seen earlier in the year. He handled it well. He hasn't handled it well the last couple of weeks.
Mike, what's the one thing when you look at LSU, getting pressure on the quarterback? They're 37th in the country. They've got 20 sacks. I mean, that's got to be a priority to not let Tua get comfortable back there and try to put the heat on Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, I think what you'll see him do is try to get interior pressure. Whenever you have a player, and I've talked to Bobby and Forcade and other guys about this that I work with, and even Jake Delhomme made the same comments that, man, the worst thing in the world, especially if you have an ankle injury, is to have interior pressure, because now you're either in reverse or you're trying to move side to side. Like you said, edge pressure is a little bit different, that you can maybe step up and then step out in the pocket. But, man, when you get that pressure up the middle, man, that's difficult to get around, especially when your ankle's, jacked up. So I think that's what LSU's going to try to do. They're going to try to use some packages where they'll get some pressure right up the middle, and maybe it's moving Caleb Vaughn around. Marcel Brooks is a name to listen for, because I'm just telling you, Ed has talked about him a lot. And young freshmen, they didn't know where to play him when they brought him here. The thought was to play him at safety like Delpit. But I'll be honest, man, I took a look at that body he's got. He's like 6'4", and I told him, "Hoss, you be playing linebacker." He just laughed at me back in July when I told him that. He's a 6'4" safety who's 2'5", 210, and by that time he was already up to 212. He's 18 years old. Ryan, by the time he's 21, he's going to be a 225, 230-pound guy. Going to play outside linebacker. They're trying to find more ways to use him and get pressure up the middle. And I think the big key for LSU up front is Rashard Lawrence. I think he's the difference maker for him. When he's been healthy, he is a force in run support and also in the ability to push that inside pocket. And it opens the door up for Caleb Vaughn and also Marcel Brooks. So I think interior pressure, center guards, they're going to be put to the test for Alabama, because I think that's where Aranda's coming at you. Understanding that, no matter what with Tua, he's not going to be 100%, and his movement skills are going to be, it's not going to be the same. And so what you try to do is to get him off his mark, and that's what no quarterback wants to do. None.
So, Mike, when we look at Joe Brady for a couple of minutes, how long do you think LSU can hang on to this guy? I mean, obviously, he's a brilliant mind. I mean, can LSU hang on to this guy for a couple of years, or do you think he finds a way to get – yeah, I mean, do you think maybe it's this year he's out of here?
Yeah. One, because of his age and because he's sort of a one-hit guy, he may not get that head coaching job after this year. But I bet he does if the – situation is similar to what it is this year after 2020 season. You'd be lucky to keep him for another year. And we were laughing about this. This was after the first game, and him and I were talking, and he was like, last year, the only two people that knew who I was on the Saints staff were you and Bobby.
Wow.
No one knew who the hell I was. He said, now, I've become like the media darling, of all this. And so he's had a grip with it too. And we tried to get him on last night, but he was out recruiting. And it's a real sharp guy. He's learned a lot under Sean Payton. If you watch the Saints, a lot of the same sort of plays the Saints run, LSU runs. Does it a little bit differently. He did explain to me that college football gives him an advantage in that he can run this at such a super high pace that the NFL won't allow you to. They sort of slow you down if you try to do it. But he said, in college, we can do this real fast. And so he's a young man with tremendous intelligence, got great working relationship with quarterbacks and receivers. He's not that much older than most of these guys anyway. He's 30 years old, and so, these guys 20, 21 years old, he sort of understands what's happening with him. Great relationship. And I think the story behind the story is how well him and Steve have gotten along, him and Steve Ensminger. Steve and I go back a long way. Not quite as long as O and I, but, it's over 30 years. I've been knowing Steve. Steve started out coaching here right up the road from where I live at Nicholls State as a grad assistant. And the offensive coordinator at that time actually lived across the street from me. So I got to know Steve. But how well they've gotten along. Steve's in his 60s, Joe's, late 20s, 30 years old. And how well that's been able to work there. So I would think LSU would be lucky to keep him one more year, 2020. And I think for a lot of people, their deal is, man, if you did it with Joe's one thing. Now do it with Miles Brennan. Does it with that at any rate similar to this? He's going to be one of the hottest, assistant coaches in the country.
Mike, let me final question here. We're talking to Mike Detillier, the Big 870 WWL out of New Orleans. Mike does radio all over the country, but really on WWL is where his primary occupation there resides. He's an NFL draft evaluator, college football analyst. Mike, final question. Is this LSU's best chance of beating Alabama? I don't really want to put a number on it. You go back 2011, last time they got the Crimson Tide. Is this their best chance? They've got – it just looks like it is. Yeah.
But Burrow gives you that shot. And people try to tell me about Zach Mettenberger. Listen, Zach was a good college quarterback. He ain't an upper-level player like Joe, who could end up being one of the top 2 or 3 picks in next year's draft. And the receiving core, Mettenberger did have Odell and Jarvis. Now, that was pretty good. I could have completed a couple of them. But their defense that, was a little down in those years. It wasn't quite as good as we had seen earlier at LSU. So, it's their best shot because of Joe. Burrow gives you that opportunity. And you know what? If you continue to do the same thing, it's a form of insanity. And that's what Les was doing here. He wasn't changing up anything. It was out the power eye. They weren't changing plays. We're going to out-physically you and all this other stuff. Come on. That might work on the Vanderbilts and South Carolinas and Ole Misses of the world. It ain't going to work against Alabama. And he refused to change. And for a little while, Ed was like that, sort of running out of that power eye. And finally, he made the decision, we got to change. It was his form of insanity. If I don't change, we have no shot, 0 shot. But Burrow gives him that opportunity, that big play element that he brings to the table, and also, too, at the pace that they run it, Ryan. I think that's a big part of it. You're not able to substitute as much. It's sort of a wear-down approach, and tsunami, so to speak, hit you with that. That's why I give Kevin Steele a tremendous amount of credit for what he did. He was the first real speed bump that LSU hit schematically that I saw all year long. It was a 3-1-7. You had 7 defensive backs playing in that game. And that was the only time I saw anyone really have, give Burrow some problems in getting receivers. And they couldn't hit the big play. They could hit that underneath stuff. They just couldn't hit the big play, which they had been doing against virtually everyone.
Mike Detillier, WWL, man. We're going to have fun with this thing, amping this game up, and it's going to be a big one. And I know we're 12 days away, but it's an anticipation, I'm sure, in Baton Rouge as it is here in Tuscaloosa. Mike, thank you again for being a part of the show and giving us your analysis. We greatly appreciate it here in T-Town.
Thank you, Ryan. Always my pleasure, buddy.